Hi, Brian. One of the C's that I'd mentioned in the last chapter that was of value to the internet was customer relationship management. So this chapter spends some time on that as a function and value and how it can be maintained by a business or organization through a web presence. This has to resonate with one that works with DMV. Can you easily recount an incidence of poor customer service, excellent customer service? And as a culture, we tend to bitch or complain about the bad stuff and not concentrate too much on the good stuff. If that were not true, there wouldn't be a market for the nightly news on any of the main channels, because though they have gotten into the practice, usually at the end of the show, if you're still interested, of recounting something positive, the bulk, at least 95% of all of the primary nightly news, even if it's local, is about negative items, not about positive items, because there's simply no interest in talking about what a good day everybody had. And you could apply that to business. You can provide excellent customer service over and over and over, but if you screw up, you risk losing a customer. So it's important to know, quite frankly, when you screw up. Interestingly, if you can detect an error on your part and correct it, then you have a much better chance of converting that person into a loyal customer that will generate customer lifetime value. I think I said in a previous lecture that 90 to 95% of people, when they have a a negative customer experience, will not say anything about it. But if you can find out, if you have ways to identify those problems in your delivery of your service, and you can correct them, and correct them well, not just correct them, but correct them well, then those people, what you want is customers to become not just satisfied, but outrageously satisfied. You want them to be extremely happy with how you provide service on an ongoing basis. And if you can rate high in that, the value of that is you can charge them literally more money. And we'll look at that in just a little bit when we look at some of the brands in the marketplace that are particularly good and effective at resonating with customers in terms of customer service on an ongoing basis. Service is getting worse, not better, in the eyes at least of the customer. This is an interesting little thing to look at. That if 40% of your customers are experiencing problems, so let's say you've got 1,000 customers, 400 of them are experiencing problems. 20% of those 40%, which would be 80 out of your 1,000, are going to say anything at all. And of those, 10% will not repurchase, which would be 8 out of your 1,000. If you've got 400 that are experiencing problems, 80% of that 400 or 320 will complain. Of those that complain, if 25% are dissatisfied, 40% of those have left. That would be 40% of 25% of 320 is 40, I believe. So 16 of them would not repurchase. And of the 320 that do complain, if you satisfy, that's what mollified is, if you appease them, 35%, let's say a third of 320 is about 110 or so. If you satisfy them, only 5% of them are will not repurchase. So it pays to satisfy them, to fix it. And if you have 320 people and 40% of them are just satisfied as opposed to appeased, 0% of them are going to repurchase. And that's kind of an incredible number that even dissatisfied group will purchase more than one who you only satisfy them with a solution. You have to appease them. You have to mollify them in order for there to be a gain. So it's really important that you find out who these unhappy people are. On balance, through all those 4 different scenarios, you'll lose 274 customers, which out of 1,000 would be 27.4% of your customers. That's kind of incredible. I mean, that's a huge turnover, and that is called churn, which is turnover. And that goes back to the old finding in the 7 that it's 5 times cheaper to get a new customer through promotion and advertising than it is 5 to 6 times more expensive to get a new customer through advertising or promotion than it is to simply keep them by satisfying them. It's the churn is very, very expensive. So this was worth keeping from your text and reviewing in this mini lecture. Who are the companies that are the best? Well, LL Bean, Nordstrom's number 6, Apple number 3, Ritz-Carlton, Lexus. It's no accident that the ones at the top are brands that are expensive, and that good service is nested in to the price of their items. And the more you give up service, the more you operate at the end of the day on price, which is always a poor way to compete over time. It's better to be able to provide good service as part of your overall business model and to simply charge for it. The lesson being people are willing to pay for good service. I also thought this was interesting as far as what people's primary beefs were, and that the number one complaint that people have, are the number one item in a survey. It would be most likely that 90% of people want to be treated with dignity. It's important to them not to be treated like a piece of meat or poorly on the phone. And you can go right down the list of things that people are looking for when they get online, or on the phone for that matter, or going into a store, and how many of them got what they actually wanted. Big gaps. I think for a company like DMV, by the way, that last slide would be really interesting to collect data via survey on those matters, both in the store and online, in the shop and online. So what is it important to build into your model? Well, customer service promises, quality of service, just for your peace of mind. These are things that you would provide online in your model, and maybe back it up by saying we give 100% customer satisfaction. If you do that, you've got to be very careful about understanding what the cost of 100% satisfaction means. It's going to cost you money. However, if you deliver, and that's built into your business model and into your training and into the performance of the employees, top-notch customer service, you're not going to have to be honoring it in theory very often. And it will only become expensive if you have poor service. So if you don't have to honor it very often because you're simply providing superior customer service and satisfaction on an ongoing basis, again, you can typically factor that in to the cost of your overall business model. This is interesting as well. I think this would have relevance to an organization or operation like yours. How do people prefer to interact through other channels on an ongoing basis? One of the cost savings was one of the C's I noted for why a business has an online presence. But if you lose your service level in the process of doing that, then you may well lose customers. I personally hate getting caught in a telephone queue, for example, that the first thing they do is try to direct you back to the website, and generally I end up online because I can't find what I want on the website. So it literally pisses me off that I get into a telephone queue and then the first thing I'm told is that I should be, on the website. So the next thing is to get into a series of queues that take a long time and really don't offer you the solutions either readily or at all that you're looking for in the queue or via the phone call. So, I would literally pay money in most cases to talk to somebody right away. The sooner the better. And that all stems from the fact that, if you can get me to a solution really quickly on the web, that's great. But all too often, we want human interaction, and at the end of the day, we need human interaction as part of our overall human model, not our business model. And I was talking today to a high school friend, and we got off texting and email, as ways to, quote, communicate, unquote, in this modern society. And I personally like texting for messaging. I do not like texting as a way to carry on a conversation with business people and students for the most part. Same with email. I mean, if I get a question from an email from a student, can you explain the product life cycle strategy to me again, or the product life cycle to me one more time? And it's just, I will certainly text back and probably email back. You need to call me, because this is not this can be explained in a 3-page written doc that'll take me an hour or more to type, or it can be explained in a 3-minute conversation, And I think we've lost the ability, in many cases, to communicate with one another because we want to simplify it too much. And I think business can take a page from that sometimes talking to somebody is the cheapest, most expedient way, whether you're a customer or business, to solve an issue. And I think there's an opportunity for business to somehow get to which of those is most appropriate. If talking is most appropriate as a customer, you want to get there as quickly as possible. So I'm not going to go through this one. I just thought, hey, a slide on the DMV in New York State. This might be of particular interest to Brian. So 97% of users, if they find what they're needed on the site, that's a dang good website that provides users with 97% of the questions, information, and solutions that they're looking for. Volume of the email was down 80%, fewer phone calls, office visits, repetitive issues handled online. So this tells me that a really well organized site around content with easy communicative features designed into it, probably very easy to navigate, very easy to get to solutions, does in fact save money, doesn't as a matter of fact save time for both the company and the user. But it has to have, that's a consequence of a website that has really good communicative. So, long story short, if that's going to happen, CRM has to be operating at all levels within the organization. I'm not going to go through these because I'm running out of time and it won't load onto YouTube, so I'm just going to say, jump right to number 6. You can't fake good customer service.